Hey guys, it's me. Not a lot going on today. It's kind of our slow season here at work. It's given me a little bit of time to work on tractor parts. They don't really like it. I have nothing better to do. But what I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about today is this fan shaft conversion I've been working on, because it has been a pain in the butt. Don't let it scare you. It's just that this is my first time going through it. There was really nobody to walk me through it. Parts vendors have been pretty expensive, and I've not been happy with them. I won't mention names, but I've had a couple good sources of parts. So I really do thank them. So something to remember whenever you're converting these are mine's on a 1943B, but I think it was for unstyled and early styled John Deere tractors. They had what was called a rubber style hub, and that meant that the fan, I got a piece right here, grips that hub that's splined to the shaft, and you can see that there's rubber attached to that metal. I don't know how they exactly got it attached, but normally it's like a big cone of rubber, and then the fan sits around it, and that's what grips it. Whenever these go and these rot, the rubber rots, normally the fan goes through the radiator because it lets go. And normally you're replacing a radiator core, you're buying all new fan shaft parts, radiator gaskets, probably radiator hardware. And mine, the outside of that rubber cone was pretty rotten. However, I don't know if you can see or not, the inside rubber was actually in good shape. I actually had to cut it off with a knife. But the problem is you do not know when it's going to go. I mean, this is 70 some odd year old rubber. So I decided to go ahead and do the conversion. Whenever you're doing it, you have to remove the whole fan shaft however you want to do it. I just so happen to be putting a crankshaft in my tractor so I could remove the governor and pull everything off that way. Other people may opt to you remove your hood and then remove the radiator and take it off that way. It's just up to you. You're gonna need on this one, I don't know what it is for like the A or the G or anything, but as far as the unstyled and early style Bs go, you're gonna need a couple things. I don't really have here to show you. I've got the fan conversion parts though, and I think these are off of a later B. Looking at what I got here. So of course, you're gonna need a pulley. And whether you use a hand start or an electric start, you have to have this pulley. It's part of the new shaft system, and that goes on first. Let me see if I can show that to you guys. So you can see the shaft there. So normally that pulley will go on first, and it sets in that, you can't really see it, but it sets in that recess over there that's down in there. And then what came next? With the pulley, the spring. There's a spring, okay, and then it rides. Sorry, the rag's in the way. The grease is sticking to everything. If you can see here, rides just like that. Okay. Next, you have a couple pieces here. You have two of these, and it's actually a couple different parts. Mine are all used parts I got from Scott Lambeth, but they're splined too. This brown rusty part actually slides off of the aluminum part, and there's a friction disc in there, and that's what grips the actual fan. So what comes next, let me kind of show you here, is that sets in there, And then of course, that one kind of came apart. Your fan, which, as you can see here, that's a different fan than the rubber hub. You have to have this fan. There's your fan. And I actually got this one to come apart. So there's your hub. And there's an old friction disc in there. I'm going to go ahead and run it. I don't really know what it's made out of. But yeah, then that goes back on top. Get it situated here. Just like that. And then of course, there's two keepers that go on the end of the fan shaft. And then you've got this thing. And that's basically what the keepers push up against. What you're also going to need is, I wish I had a parts diagram to show you, but down in here, in the very bottom of this, I wish I could get my camera right, I'm sorry, there's a washer, and then there's a packing, it's like a cork packing, and then there's kind of like a packing housing. You're going to have to update those two to a later B because there's a spacer you need. The part number of a B2129R, and it looks very similar to this. It's not exact. We machined one because part suppliers, the few that I could find, were wanting $90 for this spacer, and I was like, no, that's ridiculous. So I had my good buddy Brian Field machine one out. It's I think the dimensions we used, and it seems to be working, was this one's a little bit shorter, but it's the one I ended up putting on was 2.5 inches long. It's about 3/4 of an inch inside diameter, and I used 0.9 inches for the outside diameter, but it needs to be a little thinner than that, probably somewhere around 0.6, 0.7, and that doesn't leave you a whole lot of meat left on that. But the reason being it needs to be thinner than what I made was because this spacer has to sit on that shaft and go through that rear packing and that washer and that packing housing that I was telling you about. And if it's too thick like mine was, you have to end up sanding it down, which of course the guys who want $90 for theirs have it all made up, but with a little ingenuity you can make one fit. Anyways, you need a bigger washer and that bigger packing housing and the right packing because they are big enough, they have a wider opening to accommodate for this spacer. Like I said, mine, the one we machined, I had to modify just a little bit. We made mine at 0.9 inches. It probably need to be around 0.6 or 0.7 inches to be better. But that's what you need. And you have to have it because what it does is the front bearing, whenever you get everything situated, there's an internal spring that looks like this, that sits right in there. You have your packing and your washers on one side, and then that spring sits in the middle, and then you have your bearing and your seal and everything on the front. Well, what that does is whenever you go to compress your fan shaft with your your new friction fan stuff, basically it keeps the bearing from being pushed back too far, and that inner spring is not as springy as the top one, and so your pulley can actually go back and hit your fan shaft housing. So what it does, that spacer does, is it stops it from being compressed so far, so that way your pulley doesn't compress and hit your housing. That's why it's needed, and it's an absolute must to have. But like I said, it's 2.5 inches long, about 3/4 of an inch inside diameter, and I'd go around 0.6, 0.7 inches outside diameter in order to make it fit. And that's what we machined it to. We used a piece of bar stock or like a pipe or something. It took him 10 minutes to machine. So, and that's all there is to it. And of course, in here, mine was gone, but I'm going to replace it. There's a rubber O-ring in here that's a seal that lets everything fit together and seal nicely. You need one of those. So, yeah. I'm sorry this video was so long. I know you guys probably don't like long videos, especially when I'm not really working on anything. But I just wanted to show you kind of what you need in order to do this fan shaft conversion. I'm doing mine with used parts. You can opt for new parts. I think Sharps has a fan shaft conversion kit. Even though they say it's complete, they sell the B2129R spacer separate. I think theirs is $15. If it wasn't for the fact that I don't do business with them anymore, I probably would have gone to them. But regardless, they have a kit. It's like $200 some odd. Probably is worth it because it includes everything, but I decided to go the long way and find used parts and waiting on new stuff and all that. So I just wanted to explain to you guys what to do, and doubt I'm going to get much views on this. I know it's long, but maybe it'll help somebody in the future, because I wish there was a video out there for me whenever I started this. So the only thing I'm waiting on now is that rear O-ring. I have it at home. I forgot to bring it with me today. After I put it in, I'll be ready to press the new fan on and get it home and get it mounted. So anyways, guys, thanks for bearing with me. I hope you found some good information on this. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy what I do. I don't do it for money. I do it just to help people out. So thank you.